Chapter 18 of Her Love from Above, A Trail of Blood. Buck turned the Jeep lights off well before nearing Ava's cabin because the gunfire had been somewhere in the vicinity and he and Charlie didn't want to be sitting ducks. They guessed the sound had originated near her cabin, which made some sense since she was the newest arrival. Buck's cabin was next on this trail, but no one was gunning for him. Usually, the most dangerous time at Haven's Rest was after the arrival of a new resident, which was why Bobby Joe always developed elaborate schemes to transport new residents. She wanted their trips to be untraceable, even to Sherlock Holmes, had he not been fictional. Her strategies had not failed in over 40 years, but there could always be a first. Her cabin doors open, Charlie noted. I'm going in that way. You wait at the greenhouse exit and make sure no one comes out. Sure, Buck agreed. He wasn't in law enforcement, and he gladly gave Charlie the lead. When Charlie jumped from the slowing Jeep and headed for the front door, he noticed that Johnny's vehicle was still running and loaded with groceries. That was not a good sign. He raised his gun and waited until Buck reached the greenhouse exit. Once they were both in position, he glanced inside the cabin but saw nothing unusual, but neither could he see Johnny or Ava. He stepped through the door and moved toward the bedroom. He would clear each room individually, ensuring no one was at his back. When Charlie entered the kitchen, he froze as his pulse rate increased. A stranger was lying on the floor with blood seeping from a head wound, obviously dead. Without making a sound, Charlie moved past the body and into the greenhouse. He scanned that area but saw no one. Johnny and Ava must have fled when the dead man confronted them, but that meant there must be an accomplice. Otherwise, they would have stayed here and called for assistance. Just as Charlie was about to head toward the exit, he heard a noise in the far corner that sounded like a man grunting. He silently motioned for Buck to enter after him. Once inside, Charlie pointed for Buck to step in one direction as he went in the other. Momentarily, Buck bent down and disappeared behind one of the garden beds. When he straightened, he was holding the butt end of a gun. Charlie moved around the final garden bed and grimaced as his eyebrows raised. Buck was surprised by the mirth in his friend's face until he stepped forward and saw a man stuck in the bare door. They both burst out laughing. Got yourself into a bit of a pickle, Charlie mocked, but his demeanor cooled as he said, So help me, if you've hurt either of them. Get me out of here, the man demanded. No Ava or Johnny? Buck asked. Charlie shook his head. Keep your gun on him. I'm going outside to see if I can find them. A dead man's lying on the kitchen floor, blood everywhere. The splatter pattern doesn't match the dead man's wounds, so I'm afraid one of them might be hurt. Buck pulled his phone from his pocket as Charlie disappeared out the door. Just so you know, he told the man, if Johnny or Ava is dead, my gun will discharge accidentally. He punched the record button. If this man said anything, he wanted it recorded as evidence. Ava? Joffrey questioned. Who's Ava? The lady who lives in this cabin. This is Jenny's cabin. Jenny? Buck's eyes narrowed as he tried to conceal the building rage. Jenny ran from her husband over 15 years earlier. Why was he looking for her now? Ava lives here, he told Joffrey. Who is Jenny? Long, blonde hair? Joffrey said. Yes, Buck agreed. Ava has long blonde hair. Then she's changed her name. No, Buck contended. Ava was born with the name Ava. Your Jenny does not live here. Joffrey sighed as he lowered his head. No, he moaned. That can't be. That was Jenny. No, Buck disagreed. That was Ava. Aw, man, Joffrey groaned. Alma died, and it wasn't even her? That Madison chick is so dead. Madison? Buck questioned. Some chick named Madison called Almond and said Jenny was having an affair with her husband, some guy named Johnny. According to Alma, this was her cabin. Is Alma the dead man? Yes. He's Almond's nephew or son or something. I never can keep it straight. I didn't much like Almond. Too arrogant for his own good. But Alma was okay. It should be Almond on that floor in there, not Alma. Who's Almond? Can you just get me out of here? He bellowed in a sudden burst of rage. The bottom half of my body is going numb. I'm afraid not, Buck said. That'll have to wait until the police arrive. The man's expression turned to one of desperation. Alma's dead, he uttered. I'm a loose end. Loose end? Buck understood what he was referring to, but wanted the man to expound while the phone was recording. Almond doesn't leave loose ends. That's why he's never been caught. Well, that and the fact that he's in law enforcement. He has a way of making evidence disappear. How's your Jenny related to this Almond? Buck asked, wanting to keep the man talking as long as possible. She's his wife, Joffrey offered. Oh, let me rephrase that. She used to be his wife before she ran off. Smartest thing she ever did. From what you've told me about this Almond, I'm not arguing with that statement. Get me out of here, Joffrey demanded. Once again, he tried pulling himself through the bare door, but he couldn't budge. Not happening, Buck replied. But if you're a loose end like you're saying, I suggest you talk faster. You need to give the authorities as much reason as possible to keep you safe. Charlie shone his flashlight on the ground in front of his shoes. He'd followed the blood trail for as far as possible, but now, with the darkness of night settling in, he could no longer distinguish between dark soil and blood soil. He bent down and felt the dirt. Neither could he tell by feeling. He stood and turned full circle. Ava, he called. Johnny. He waited for a response. Charlie, he heard Claire holler, her voice coming from the direction of the lodge. He turned the flashlight toward his approaching wife. She was out of breath from running, and her creamy white shirt was covered with blood, the sight of which made his heart leap into his throat. What happened? He demanded while rushing toward her. It's not mine, she quickly clarified. Johnny's been shot. Ava got him to the lodge, but he's in serious condition. She said there's... Charlie darted for the lodge, which was now only about 100 yards away. His mind was boggled. Auntie had run this place for decades without any abusive exes finding her residence, yet only 1 week after her departure, there was already a breach. That made no sense. She had planned Ava's escape route just like everyone else's. Jenny made the necessary preparations to pull off her rescue. But that shouldn't have mattered. She had taken care of that aspect of the rescues for years. Why would she suddenly mess up? The lodge's main meeting room, Claire called as she ran after him. Sirens faintly wailed in the distance. Thank God, she exclaimed. Paige had no idea when she called the police that she could be saving Johnny's life, but Claire was grateful for it nonetheless. When she neared the lodge, the dim colors of flashing light were adorning the night sky. Charlie dashed through the lodge door to find Ava bending over Johnny's bloody body, holding a kitchen towel tightly against what appeared to be a severe shoulder wound. Her other hand was pressed firmly against his stomach, which he assumed was a second wound. As he reached Johnny, Jenny came rushing down the stairs with additional towels and a first aid kit. The bullet in his shoulder traveled straight through, Claire informed while hurrying inside. We need to plug the back hole of the wound. What about the other bullet? She shook her head. There's no exit wound. Charlie raised Johnny's upper body, pressed an additional towel against the back wound, and then lowered him back to the floor. His weight will keep pressure on that wound, he explained. We've got to slow the bleeding on these two. He's going to be all right? Ava asked, her eyes red with tears as she pleaded for a positive response. Charlie sighed, then leaned down and began talking to his patient. Johnny, he said, Johnny, you've got to stay with us. Those sirens are bringing help. We'll have you to the hospital in no time, but that won't do any good if you give up on us now." Johnny moaned and tried to lean forward. "No," Charlie instructed, pushing his body back down. "Stay still. We've got to stop this bleeding. You can heal from these wounds if you don't lose too much blood." "Ava," Johnny whispered. "She's safe," Charlie said. "She's right here." He glanced up at her and tilted his head toward Johnny. Ava lowered her face closer to Johnny's ear. "I'm right here, Johnny. We made it. You're lying on the lodge floor. The emergency people will be here any minute. Do you hear those sirens? That's them." She took his hand in her own. "Johnny," she said, "thank you. You saved my life." She kissed his hand. "Please, Johnny, hold on. Haven's Rest needs you." The sound of a female voice screaming broke the silence. Charlie grabbed his gun and started toward the stairs, just in time to see Paige burst around the loft's corner. "Who took my suitcase?" she demanded. "What?" Jenny asked, squinting at her. "Someone stole my suitcase. Who did it?" "Your suitcase is not a major issue at the moment," Claire said in a scolding tone. "We've got a man shot." "It's a major issue to me," Paige screamed. "Someone stole my suitcase while we were sitting through that ridiculous meeting." "Paige," Charlie ordered as he returned to Johnny's side. "Not now." Paige ignored her cousin's words and thundered down the stairs. "Yes, now," she fumed. "I had valuable possessions in that suitcase, and I want to know where it went." Ava stared at her in disbelief. "Johnny's been shot, and you're worried about your clothes?" Paige stared down at her son-in-law. "He'll live," she snidely remarked. "The bad ones always do. I want to know who took my suitcase." "Well," Ava stated, "since we're all down here and Madison was the only person who left during the meeting, my bet would be on her. And that would explain why your vehicle is gone." Paige clenched her fist and yelled, "Madison isn't gone. It's my suitcase that's gone." "Not now," Charlie ordered. "We've got an injured. Where is my suitcase?" "Your vehicle is gone," Ava repeated. "Johnny is right here. So unless it drove itself, Madison left without you." "Why, that's preposterous. She would never leave without me. I'm only going to ask this one more time. Where is my suitcase?" Claire stood to her feet and placed her bloody body between Paige and Johnny. "No, Paige," she accused. "That is not your real question. Your real question is, where is the sock containing the family heirlooms that were hidden in my suitcase? The heirlooms that you stole. We know you're the one who stole them because we have a video of you picking up the matching sock from the sock table." Paige flashed red with anger. "Those belong to me," she screamed. "I didn't steal them. Auntie said I was to inherit them. They are mine." Johnny started to move, but Charlie held him down. "Ava," Johnny rasped, "tell them. Madison." Charlie looked at Ava. "It's something about Madison," he said. "What is it he's wanting you to tell us about Madison?" Ava glared at Paige. "That she hired the man who shot Johnny so she could collect his life insurance money." "Bull," Paige spat. "Oh, and the man she called to kill Johnny was Jenny's ex-husband, Alman." "What?" Jenny hissed, all color draining from her face. "The man had an old description and he thought I was you. Madison traded your whereabouts for Johnny's life, or death in this case." "That's preposterous," Paige thundered. "Madison would never do that. You're both liars." "Look at him," Claire ordered, her Irish temper now flaring beyond control. "Look at him. Someone shot him. Twice, Paige. Twice. This isn't make-believe. This is for real. And where is Madison? Her vehicle is missing and you're still here. Doesn't that tell you anything?" "You don't know anything," Paige screamed while pointing at Johnny. "Nothing. He's been abusing my daughter for years. She does everything for him, and he does nothing for her. He works a job like any decent man, but then he goes out playboying it every weekend with some new bimbo and spends his paycheck partying. I have to pay their bills." Little Miss hopped down the stairs, yawning as though she had been sleeping, then strolled over to Claire and rubbed against her leg. Claire glanced down and immediately noticed the missing collar. "That's not true," Ava said. "He works 80 hours a week, and it still isn't enough money for Madison. You don't know your daughter very well." "How dare—" "Where's her vehicle?" Claire demanded, pointing toward the parking lot. "Out there where we left it." "Show me." Paige stomped toward the lodge window and pointed toward an empty parking spot. "It's right—" Her voice stuttered to a stop. "It's gone," Claire said. "It's gone. And so is little Miss's collar." Paige swirled back around to notice little Miss in Claire's hands, and she was right. The collar was missing. "That means nothing. You could have stolen that collar yourself. It's worth a freaking fortune." "No," Jenny inserted. "It's worth $18, or at least it was when it was new." "What?" "No. Buck said—" "We know what Buck said. He was trying to stop your sticky fingers from stealing everything that wasn't nailed down before we got here. He sidetracked you with the collar." "No," Paige argued. "No, you're all lying. You're liars, the whole lot of you." She jabbed her finger at each one of them. "You've planned this entire scenario to steal my inheritance. I swear, my attorney will—" Flashes of light sprayed the room as an ambulance pulled up outside. "Thank God," Charlie whispered. "Help's here," Ava gently said into Johnny's ear, brushing the hair from his face. "They're here. Hold on a bit longer." "This is garbage," Paige explained. "Johnny moved the vehicle somewhere." Her hand shot to her mouth. "Oh no, he's done something to Madison. He's—" "Shut up," Claire demanded. "You were raised knowing about this ministry. You've heard Auntie's story and the stories of some of the residents. You know what an abuser looks like. You know the abuser is the one who humiliates their spouse in public. They're the loudmouth, the cheater, the liar, the one claiming their spouse cheats on them. They are the ones who project their behaviors on their partner. You know all these things, yet you still think Johnny is the abuser?" Jenny hurried inside with 2 police officers and the medical personnel. "Over there. He's been shot twice as far as we can see. He's been bleeding for nearly 30 minutes. We've slowed it, but he's lost a lot of blood." Charlie backed away so the paramedic and EMTs could do their jobs. He had seen death before, and he didn't know if Johnny would survive the trip to the hospital, much less the necessary surgery that would follow. He placed his arm around Claire's shoulders, both for her comfort and his own. "Please," Claire begged, "tell me he's going to live." Charlie hugged her tightly but said nothing. "Please," she whispered. "I can't, Claire," he said. "I want to, but I can't. I just don't know." "I'm Officer Daffern," one of the officers greeted. "Would someone like to tell us what's going on here?" Paige turned in his direction and said, "I would love to. These people have banded together to steal my inheritance, and that man," she pointed at Johnny, "that man deserves what he's gotten. They're trying to tell me that my daughter—" "Ma'am," the officer held up a silencing palm. "First, I need to know your name." "Paige. Paige Lancaster." "You're Paige Lancaster. You're the first person who called the police." "Yes," Paige agreed while pointing toward Johnny. "But I didn't call about this. I called about—" Officer Daffern stepped forward while pulling a pair of handcuffs from his belt. "Miss Paige Lancaster, you are under arrest for threatening to kill—" "What?" she demanded, stepping backward. "No, you can't arrest me. I'm the one who called you. I'm the victim here. My daughter is missing, and this entire group of people is trying to steal my inheritance. They are the—" "I don't know about that, but it can be sorted out later. What I do know is that you threatened to kill someone to a 911 dispatcher. He glanced at the medics who were trying to help Johnny. And now a wounded man is lying on the floor. But even without an injured man, you would still be under arrest. You can't call the police and threaten to kill someone. Doing that leaves me with no choice but... Paige stomped her foot and held her ground. If you so much as touch me, I'll get the best attorney money can afford, and I'll have your badge. The law enforcement officer grabbed her arm and snapped the handcuff around one wrist as she attempted to twist away. If you fight me, he warned, I will add resisting arrest to the charges. This is crazy. She turned toward Charlie. Charlie, tell him I wasn't serious. Charlie kept his eyes on Johnny as he responded. Paige, it doesn't matter what I say. You made that call. You said exactly what you wanted to say when you made it. You threatened someone's life. I know the law, and that's a criminal offense. He looked at her. It's taken over 40 years, but this time I think you may actually answer for your actions. You're lucky I'm not adding theft to the charges. How dare... Charlie glanced at the officer. Could you please get her out of here? We've got a seriously injured man who doesn't need to hear her obnoxious mouth right now. Officer Daffern led Paige toward the door as another patrol vehicle pulled up, followed by the flashing lights from 3 additional vehicles, all making Heaven's Rest look like a disco. Charlie watched as the medics raised Johnny onto a gurney, then loosened his grip on Claire and moved toward the bed. Johnny, he said, unsure if the young man could still hear him. As soon as we're finished here, we'll be at the hospital with you. You hang on, son. Do you hear me? Hang on. You've got a lot to live for. Nahath eased to Johnny's side. Johnny, he said, Charlie's right. You have a lot to live for. Stay strong. How bad is he? Arden asked. Nahath shook his head, indicating that it wasn't good, then turned toward Teasel. Go with him, he instructed. Try to encourage him to live. It's going to be iffy, and the results will depend upon how much he wants to live. Sir, a second officer said to Charlie, I can wait until they get him into the ambulance, but I need to know what's happening here. Charlie spoke without looking at the officer. My name is Charlie O'Dare, and I'm the nephew of Bobby Joe, the woman who built this ministry. I'm a forest ranger in the upper Rocky Mountain area. The officer reached out to shake Charlie's hand. I'm Officer Buchanan. I knew Bobby Joe well. I'm sorry for her passing. My condolences to you. Charlie nodded in thanks. If you wouldn't mind, sir, he continued, Ava and I can fill you in on the entire story. We're the 2 main witnesses. He motioned toward Claire. Can my wife go to the hospital with this young man? We're his only relatives here, and she doesn't know nearly as much as we do concerning tonight's events. Of course, Officer Buchanan answered. We may need to question her later, but she's free to go for now. We'll be staying at Haven's Rest for a while, so she'll be easy to reach. Charlie watched as Johnny was carried from the lodge and placed in the ambulance. With the emergency vehicle out of sight, he began. He was shot twice, that we can see. 2 men were involved, both contained, but neither here at the lodge. He paused as another patrol vehicle pulled into the parking lot. We need to get some officers to a cabin about a half mile from here. Of the 2 men responsible for this man's injuries, one is dead on the floor of that cabin, and the other is stuck in a drainage opening in the greenhouse wall. Where's Buck? Officer Buchanan asked. Charlie took a relieving breath. If Officer Buchanan knew Buck, it would be easier for him to believe the entire scenario. He's with the man who's stuck in the opening, he answered. He does have a gun on him, but that man is going nowhere. He's some kind of stuck. Did Buck shoot the dead man? No, Charlie answered. He wasn't shot, and he was dead by the time we reached the cabin. He glanced toward Ava. I don't know what happened there, but she does. They were here to kill her. And Johnny, Ava added. His wife. She indicated Paige as the officer enclosed her in the police vehicle. That woman's daughter, Madison, hired him to kill us both. Officer Buchanan closed his notebook. Okay, first, get us to that cabin. When we secure the scene, we'll worry about the details.